back in the old days, along with a lot of the things I had invented, were some things like I invented some little ways of woodworking that were or joining wood, which it was me. It was not quite. It was me and my people really. But one of the things I did is I had a couple gear designs, which were very simple to make, which were basically, they would drill in a gear, and then I forget exactly how it worked, but there were there were gear designs being made from trees, and these gear designs were fairly well used, and they worked pretty well. Um, they first built them out of wood, and they worked fairly well in wood. And they actually on the wood ones they left a lot of meat, so the gears would be kind of very rounded, you know. And I think they might have used a combination of wood gears and metal gears because metal was very 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 rare, so they didn't have a lot of it. So we tried to use like 1 in 3 gears would be a wooden gear. Plus, it kept down on the wearing of the gear because you'd be pushing a metal gear wouldn't wear as much against a wooden gear as it would blah blah, or one of the gears would wear more than the other one, and the other one was easier to replace. But so there were a lot of wooden gears being made, um, and wooden gears were used quite a bit back in the day. There was a lot more woodworking back in the day, so and a lot of the wood things like some of that was actually my inventions or whatever. It was me and my people basically. I came up with ideas and they did it, and some of the ideas were for the pegs and stuff. And it was my people, and I owned the companies. Basically, I owned the gear designs, like the little rounded gears. Those were my patents. So I actually owned those designs, and I owned a lot of patents back then. But it was just basically my people, my companies. Patents back then were more that I didn't want anybody building the kind of stuff that my people could, because they wouldn't build it right. Because like there were some other people that tried to do the same stuff as my people, and their stuff broke, and in those cases, people died then, because like when a piece of metal failed, people died. Um, so that's why they're actually that's where we're kind of like my patents kind of get into everything else, because I actually kind of made it, nobody would use the other things because they would break, um, and because I always kept my quality up really high, like if one of my ropes was rated as a 10 or whatever, it could actually do double or triple that its rating always. I always rated things for lower, less than what's called. Whereas other people kind of rated their things for the maximum load, I rated mine for the minimum load. For so like my ropes, my steel was always 3 times capable, at least. Because in a pool or an emergency situation, 3 times, or with wear, usually, rope had to be 3 times capable, because, within like 2 or 3 years, it'd get worn out. And then, so that way in 3 years, I always rated mine for the distance. Um, so a lot of the gears and stuff, which actually did wear out fairly quickly, but there was, nobody really minded that. But that's kind of where I kind of started, taking off, with this whole thing with that building right there. That family was building a gear setup for me out of wood, and they were very very successful. Like I say, Britain are huge. Like I'm massively into Britain. Like a lot of my stuff was in Britain. A lot of my gear ideas were in Britain. Me and Britain are like this, kind of thing. I commissioned the clock on Big Ben, so workers of the town could know when. It was my first world clock or world time project, which kind of worked, except for how do you know when you can't see the clock? But anybody with an eyesight of that clock could know. And there were a couple other things, like they would light fires, at 9 o'clock. We light fires so they could set the time. And then there were other things where, like, you had what's called a clock specialist or certified clock person. He would set his watch to exactly the same thing as Big Ben, and the whole country would work off of Big Ben as far as the time, at least for a distance. And then it was like, well, and then we get into the whole like daylight saving stuff and all that. And as my kingdom grew out bigger, I had to start thinking about other things. So anyway, but that's kind of how that goes, and how like I started out over there. and kind of go out bigger. Minerals. Anyway, I had a very, 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 very long and illustrious career. And I was very successful in almost everything I did. I was hugely successful. I don't know why, but I just was. I guess I was the first. I don't know. But I did a lot of things. I had a lot of ideas, a lot of inventions, and kind of how your history went for a long time. And things worked really well. I thought everything was really, really well. Everyone was really, really happy. I mean, I was really, really rich. Like, I was the most wealthy. I had the most people working for me. I was the best inventor ever. And it wasn't until way, way, way longer years later that I'm just a person now and just like kicking it. But back in the day, like the whole world marched to my direction, and everything got better. The whole industrial revolution, that was all about me. The trains, everything. Like I was master inventor. I invented a whole bunch of plow implements too. I was very good at that. I invented a manure spreader. I invented a potato planter. I invented gears. I invented different types of gears. I invented all kinds of stuff. That's kind of how I ended up owning Ingersoll Rand and Caterpillar and John Deere and all these companies. So anyway, back in the day, it was me and my people, and we did amazing things.